This is Willette with Next Step with Passion and Purpose, and you're probably wondering what Next Step is. Hopefully you did a little bit of the reading before you clicked on this video and got some information about who I am and what Next Step is. But I am not a college recruiting service. I do not do skills training. What Next Step does is fills the void between the recruitment and the transition for female student athletes from high school to college life. It's a proactive and preventative measure to help families successfully make that transition and to make it as smooth as possible. So there's a lot of services out there that are designed to get your student athlete recruited to college. Many different levels, Division 1, 2, or 3. There's NCSA, there's Elite College Recruiting, Prep Talk, Max Prep, Athletic Quest, Be Recruited, and Huddle. And there's so many other services out there to help in this process. But there's still that void in preparing and getting a young woman ready for that transition to college. So what services are designed to help student athletes thrive once they've made a commitment to play collegiately or they are in college? Next Step is a proactive and preventative measure and helps female student athletes deal with the changes and prevent situations like going from a Division I student athlete into the portal and coming out at a lower level. It deals with the peer pressure and the social pressures, time management struggles, speaking up for yourself. All decisions that are now being made are on the student athlete's shoulder, and that's after being under their parents' roof for about 18 years. So all of these things and more that need to be addressed so a young woman is ready for those split-second decisions she has to make once she gets on a college campus. And if she's not really ready to do that, it can cost the student athlete their career, sometimes their eligibility, transferring 1 or 2 or 3 times. So there's many case studies out there proving that the transition can be much more difficult. There's so many more unknowns that people just have no idea about, and that's what Next Step does. Helps you navigate the unknowns that you're going to face as a student athlete. Student athletes and parents, they spend so much time and resources to have an opportunity to play collegiately, but no one takes a second to look at the preparation and readiness that it takes to avoid these pitfalls. I'm the person, and Next Step is the company, to make sure all your recruiting help and your training that you have had up to thus far is not wasted. We are here to help you successfully make that next step and to thrive. So again, there's that void that needs to be filled, all the services that help you get recruited and prepare you academically and skill-wise. Next Step is in addition to all these other sources of preparation. And if you're not getting prepared for that transition, there's so many things that can transpire because of all the unknowns. It can be such an overwhelming transition period that first year of college, and that's what Next Step does, is helps you with the unknowns and to make that transition period so much more smooth. So this part of this presentation is going to focus on the transfer portal, which is a double-edged sword. And I'm not telling you the transfer portal is good or bad. Unfortunately, it's being used way too much. Student athletes, when they get on campus, they're not thinking about the transfer portal. They're not thinking that their experience is going to go south. But they know that the transfer portal is there to fall back on. So a student athlete comes to a university with the greatest of intention, and that's why the portal is becoming a much more serious topic. So I want to talk about why the portal exists. It originated to make the process quicker and easier for the compliance department and for the student athlete. So it's managing that process from start to finish. There's more transparency in the process, and it empowers the student athletes to make known their desire to consider other programs. It also, there's that one-time transfer rule out there allowing student athletes to transfer one time without being required to sit out a year, and that went into effect fall of 2021. So let's jump to the pros and cons of the transfer portal. First of all, the transfer portal has turned into free agency at the college level. There's a new age, a new dawn of college athletics, with things on the horizon or right in front of us, like the transfer portal and the NILs. So you must prepare yourself for this new world. All the efforts to get to college, and what else is being done to make that experience positive. So the emphasis of this is on the transfer portal because of the state of the portal. And the state of the portal is because young female student athletes aren't prepared for this transition. So some of the pros is for the portal, our student athletes can get a fresh start. They can create opportunities for themselves. They have more freedom to do what they think is best. They have the power and control to leave toxic situations. If the decision is based on sound reasoning and calculation, without the emotion attached, the transfer portal can lead to greater success for some student athletes. So let's talk about the cons. We're talking about some student athletes can be a little bit impatient. They want what they want and when they want it. So sometimes when student athletes aren't playing right away, they look to maybe transfer to see if the grass is greener on the other side. There's some tampering that's taking place. Some programs are, from what I understand, reaching out to student athletes, and then they put themselves into the transfer portal. So there is some tampering going on. There's some mid-season transfers that programs are not prepared for. The transfer portal can be overcrowded. There's probably not enough homes for all those people that end up in the transfer portal. And sometimes coaches can run players off knowing that the transfer portal is a backup for those student athletes. And this day and age, the bulk of the recruiting is done from the portal, which has an impact on high school student athletes. So I've provided you a couple articles. One is from Gino Ariema. He says the transfer portal's a mess. It was a mess then, it's a mess now, and he believes it's going to be a mess in the future. He talks about the number of people in the portal and that some student athletes will be worse off coming out of the portal than they were when they went in. And he's not against the portal. He believes that if a student athlete's put thought to it, they're intentional, and they end up finding a place to go, that it can be really beneficial. But he also wants us to all look at there being so many kids in the portal, something has to be wrong with the system and the culture. And so that's something to take a look at when you are in your recruiting process. The other article is just hitting home about the pros and cons, and that it's the athletic department's responsibility to educate the student athletes on the positive and negatives. So after a young woman gets on campus, sometimes there's no focus on how to sustain herself. It's a day-to-day of figuring out how to navigate this new world. And many of your daughters out there are going to experience this transition piece and these pitfalls and these challenges and these unknowns and not be prepared for them. Everything a collegiate athlete does will impact them. And that will include their NIL deals or the deals that can potentially get pulled for them because they're not carrying themselves in the right way, or they posted something that wasn't suitable on social media and so forth. So the NIL and the transfer portal is an art of its own right now, and there's so many companies out there focusing on the NIL and the portals and encouraging kids to get deals at certain universities that they may go to. So the transfer portal is where all the athletes, post their names. And during the 2018-19 season, there's more than 15,000 student athletes. So those figures have risen dramatically. And that's out of the 302,000 student athletes that are in the three divisions. So that's a quick rundown of the transfer portal, a little NIL stuff. Next Step does not want any young woman to become a statistic. There are precautionary steps to take, lessons to learn, and certain tools that can be learned also. And I'm sure every parent wants to make sure their daughter is in the best position possible to successfully make that transition. This is what I want to provide you. This is the greatest gift I can give any parent I speak with, is to have preparation and readiness for their daughter at that next level. So let's sit down and discuss your daughter's unique situation, all the specifics. Let's map out a game plan for her and the family in terms of what she would need to thrive at that next level. There's some core readiness tools and values I give everyone, but it's very specific to each and every individual and family. There's nothing more that I want than your daughter to be successful at making that transition. So book a quick 15-minute call at the link above and let's discuss your needs. Again, nextstepww@gmail.com is my email. Transitionalcoaching.com, nextsteptransitionalcoaching.com is my website. IG and Twitter, you can follow me at nextstepww. My Facebook page, Next Step Transitional Coaching for Student Athletes, and then my link to book that 15-minute call. Look forward to speaking to you.